We narrowed down and meddled in on the innovative side. Are you talking about on the innovation or the integration? Either one. Okay. As we narrowed down on innovation, we had two pieces that were some sort of PSA-like, and then we had two pieces that were for corporate clients. And the instruction is that the ones that are eligible for Grand Prix are the corporate clients. So I think both the things that we were really looking at were the gaming as sort of a mega trend and what that might instruct the industry to do, because there has been obviously film as the most sophisticated form of narrative storytelling has been dominant within advertising as the media. Right now you've got a situation where just recently gaming has surpassed film in terms of it's not necessarily its cultural impact, but for sure dollars made, and soon cultural impact. And if you look at young people, for sure cultural impact. So you've got a real fundamental shift happening, and yet we don't have a category like gaming in Cannes or really any of the shows. So I think game as a piece of any campaign, and specifically as an art form that people will be practicing, is something that I can't imagine in 5 years those categories don't exist. Maybe multiple categories. Yeah. So there's also a business model there potentially, which is, hey, can you sell your advertising? Can consumers want it enough that they buy it? And then the other real trend that we saw in a lot of the work that we liked was different technologies, sort of technology mashups, and companies coming together to create things that couldn't have existed with one or the other. And so that's a trend that I think we're just beginning to see just beginning to see it, and it's going to be more and more powerful. Already some of what's happening there fits in some categories, but some of it doesn't. Is product going to be a category in Cannes? We saw in the integration of the tag campaign where they took and created a whole new product, which is you take this product and you combine them and you make a new product, and then every execution told that same story. But the agency was involved in the creation of that product. That's a huge statement that we wanted to put out there for the industry and for clients and for Cannes, that agencies, when they're allowed to move upstream and get involved earlier and earlier in the process, they can help create products that market themselves, and where you don't rely on just advertising anymore. You've got this thing that from its very inception is going to sell and do its job.
Simon Canning from The Australian. We hear some sort of buzzword at this conference every year, something new. Integrated was like a buzzword of about 3 years ago, and it finally became effectively a category in its own right. Are you actually seeing any real innovation in integrated, or are people just trying to toss ideas across a whole bunch of channels in a bid to pretend they're integrated? And I'd be interested in the view of a few of the jurors on that as well.
Yeah, I'll answer quickly and then we'll move it along. Personally, I think that we saw, and this is one of the reasons why we wanted to push a lot of work out and make it a category statement rather than a singular statement. We saw a lot of people imitating past winners, and there was a kind of integration that was just, hey, you've touched all the bases, sort of 360 branding kind of integration. And that seemed to fall short of really being an innovative form of integration. We had, at one point, there was a Volkswagen campaign that was integrated that had a medal, and in my opinion, it wasn't integrated in the way that the best were, and I said, hey, let's pull that out, and we put it to a vote, and everyone said, yeah, you're right, it doesn't quite meet that standard. So that was kind of a joyful moment to find that standard, and you'll see it I think you'll see it in the work. But there was a ton of stuff where even there were the same themes over and over and over, and I'll let Chuck talk about some of them because he was complaining bitterly during the.
There's been a history of titanium and kind of a history of what that meant, and so everything that we did was calculated based on what we say here and what you guys take away. In integration, we found that the pattern did become way too omnipresent, so we pulled it away. We thought that the best ideas in integration were different, and they created their own sense of style based on either an insight or a business problem, and we thought that was the standard then of which we hope other people will now try to follow. And on the titanium front, I think that again, very difficult category. You couldn't believe at all the really excellent ideas that are out there that won't meddle in that category. But at the same token, we wanted to do what we felt was the most important for our business in terms of how we have to move upstream. So I think that what Alex already said was very important. But integration should change because we have created kind of a pattern, and it's not going to be that much more fun to come around here to Cannes and judge this stuff if all you see is TV, web, and print. It just won't be that much fun. So hopefully people now can look at integration in a much different way. Little post-it notes and stuff like that, really fun stuff. But again, when it came down to what should set the standard for our industry, the idea of product development, business model, plus a campaign idea that comes right out of that proposition, we felt was very, very important to send the message.
You said integration and innovation. I would like to know whether it will be more defined, for people to enter, so people will know more closely what is asked from a campaign to enter it, because there's always a mix-up, has been in the past.
Confusion, right? But it's the right thing. I came into this not really knowing what to expect, not with any expectations, not wanting to come in with preconceived notions, because that's what we're here for. We're supposed to discover things. And this award now, to me, holds a really special place because it's a sanctuary for ideas that don't necessarily have another place to go. Some of them did, and some of them, we still awarded even though they fit in another place. But who else is creating this sanctuary, which is almost an incubator for new kinds of advertising that then spreads out into the rest of the show? My recommendation would be to take integrated and put it into another part of the show, but it wouldn't be to limit what's happening in titanium. I might expand it in some other way and put another category in titanium. And the only other thing I would add is I think part of the confusion with titanium is the name, right? Because it's a kind of metal, I think people tend to look at it as there's bronze, silver, gold, titanium, right? Well, no, it's not. It's not platinum. It's titanium. It's a different thing. And I think we get confused by the name, but when I thought back, Dan knows what he's doing. He named the freaking thing titanium because it's a different kind of metal. It's not better. It's maybe stronger and weirder and whatever, but it's separate. It sits separate from the rest of it. It's the It is hard and light. I don't know what that means. But this sanctuary is a great thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a powerful thing for the industry that doesn't exist anywhere else.
I can't actually beat people with a stick to go and see it, and I think they're the losers if they don't, frankly, at this time in our industry.
An agency perspective and look at it from a particularly different side. But I think that the discussion that we had amongst the jurors and the obligation that we had from defining these categories and understanding it better ourselves to be able to present it to you and ideally to the industry at large. In looking at each and every one of these entries and the innovation that takes place, agencies have always contributed significantly to brands. And the intellectual property was usually not always recognized, but was part of the service they provided their clients. And now, with so many ideas coming from so many places, there's a great opportunity for an agency to develop something with the knowledge that they have over the understanding of both the brand as well as perhaps the consumers of a brand. It's almost natural that they could come up with an innovative idea that creates, in a sense, a new product. And if you look at this list, whether it was a video game or it was literally the combination of two deodorants as a means of expanding sales, or Nike Plus, and the same with TAP. I mean, these were practically, each and every one of them, a new product that was created as a result of the agency's effort. And I think that's fantastic. And I know for ourselves, the journey of this discussion helped define it for us and made it clearer to choose the things that we thought were right. And then hopefully it'll help the audience tonight and anyone looking at that list.
Agencies to create opportunities for the brands to interact with the consumers. And I think we have a couple of examples here, like the Burger King. What has been created is an opportunity for the consumers to interact with the brand in a different environment than the usual one, and even pay for it. So I think that's a fantastic creation of new media and new opportunities for touch points with consumers.
I think the biggest thing that came through for me, if you're looking to distill the whole thing right down, was, we talk about entertainment, we talk about engagement, we talk about connecting with people, but there has to be a value exchange. And I think all of the pieces that we chose were valuable and of value to people in life in some way, in some shape or form. And I think that was the most important thing. And whether you talk about video gaming is the fastest growing form of entertainment. And to tap into that world and add value to people in that environment, I think is inspired. It's really, it's a brand understanding people. And I think the most important thing, if you look at all of the winners, there's a real understanding of how people think, how people communicate, and how people consume advertising. And for me, each one of them has merit looking through that lens. And it's about creating value, whether it's entertainment through gaming and through the insight of a gaming culture, or it's creating a product that adds value to a charity, or creating Earth Hours, 60 minutes, which can circumnavigate the world. I mean, each idea had a big, valuable thought behind it. And you talk about integration, you talk about titanium, the titanium basically is seeding. You're seeding ideas, you're seeding the future. And it has to be a catalyst for the future. So all we're doing is putting a seed in the ground and saying, what's next? And then you let that seed grow and amplify itself. And the most important thing really is to focus on that. And there's going to be some grey areas, but that's, for me, is the most exciting thing. There are no boundaries anymore. The world is completely mashed up, and we have the opportunity within ourselves to really do anything. So if we're upstream at the beginning, creating product like Nike Plus, or TAP, or Earth Hour, or we're downstream, fusing advertising into the fabric of life, like Burger King. I mean, I think the brands now have the ability to go upstream or downstream, but to connect with people and add real value. And value is the most important thing. If you look at every single piece of work that's won, you can actually identify the real value, not to the industry, to people. And if we focus on people, then we have a future.
One of the things that often gets criticised about Cannes is that a lot of the really great work doesn't get understood fast enough. The stories don't get, the context of ideas that come from different countries don't get understood because, you see a TV spot and maybe you don't understand the context and suddenly it's out of the show. I think the great thing from my point of view, and I know a lot of the guys, in terms of judging Integrated and Titanium, is because of the format it's judged in, which are these 5-minute films, we really got the context and the story of every single idea. I mean, some of the ideas were awful, but we got all of the stories. And I think for that reason, I suspect the most interesting work in the coming years is going to definitely be coming out of this category because, there's no chance to miss a story. Whereas I think, you guys have just been talking about film. A lot of the time, the stuff that wins at shows like this is the stuff that reads fastest, but often the best ideas aren't the simplest ones. So I think it's a great format to see ideas, these films, and I think the best stuff's going to come through these categories. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you can.
Does this one? Yeah. The idea of advertising agencies designing products really isn't a new idea. If you go back and look at Sunkist with orange juice. That was an idea that the agency came up with actually when they had sold enough oranges. What could they do with oranges? And the concept of turning it into a commercial form of orange juice, as Mark said, really adding value. And I think that's probably one of the best trends that's going to come out of this.
All the problems, you know, we're aware of what's going on in life, climate change, and you know, whether it's the TAP project, you know, from New York with water. How do you activate people? How do you actually, again, connect with people and turn the people into the solution? And really, for me, that the idea behind that, creating social activism in such an inspiring way, in such an ambitious way. You know, going back to, you know, what is a titanium idea? You know, a titanium idea has to be a big, audacious goal. It has to be huge, and it has to be scary. And the thought behind that of actually to get a city to do something, to get 2.2 million people to actually come together and create, you know, some content. I think for me that's a massively ambitious idea. And then to get governments and to get companies, 2,100 companies to come together and unite behind an idea. It just shows the power of advertising, you know, the power of communication. You know, we have all of these tools at our disposal. When we put them together, when we integrate them together, when we weave them together in an interesting way, in a powerful way, we can create value. And I think that's one of those ideas that will spread and will amplify itself across the globe. It's already now in 8 or 9 cities in the USA for 2008. And it's an idea that will grow and grow and grow and grow. And we talked about what is the real, you know, what behind integrated ideas. It's about creating that value at every single portal and getting richer and richer and richer, not replicating itself. And I think a lot of the work that we saw was basically mirroring itself. It was mixed media campaigns of yesteryear. It was the same thing, repeated and just cloned, as opposed to growing and amplifying itself and getting richer and stronger as it grows across the line. So all of the ideas that we saw were huge. I mean, absolutely massive, whether it be, you know, Nike Plus or it would be, you know, Axe from Latin America. I mean, huge ideas. When you think of Axe, you know, that's a campaign that's been going for 10 years. You know, originated in London by BBH, the Lynx effect, it's gone across the world. But every time it's expressed itself, whether it's Game Killers in the USA, or it's Lynx Jet in Australia, or it's fusion thinking from Latin America, each time the expression of that has been stronger and stronger and stronger.
So the trap of, you know, it was pretty thin, you know, crap idea, just spread across a huge amount of media. But the great work, and I think World Press was one of those, was examples where it wasn't matching luggage. It was just a really strong idea that was realised brilliantly in every different voice. So whether it was the radio or the way they actually used direct marketing to create outdoor, it was a fantastically subversive idea, and we loved that, and it was beautifully put together. So yeah, that was definitely a favourite.
It's a good example of the kind of integration that we said, okay, that's the standard now.
Paul McIntyre, Sydney Morning Herald. There's a really good showing in the award winners here amongst either small or independent shops.
Clients are seeking best-in-class thinking, best-in-class ideas, regardless of geography, regardless of network, or regardless of agency. They're looking for those big ideas. And I think what you see in the PSA or the charity world is, I think people are liberated, completely liberated. So there are no boundaries to their thinking. So that's why you see huge ideas like TAP, like Earth Art, because people are looking.
You know what they're liberated by? They're liberated by the fact that they got no money. And that was something that worked over and over in this category, and something that I've actually taken. I think I forgot it, and it reminded me. And I've been talking to our creative people, and my instruction on everything that they're working on right now is: look, you got 20 to 50K, make this idea famous and make everybody. And that's where all the big ideas come from. As soon as you start leaning into any media at all, the ideas really limit themselves. And even if you think it's an untraditional media, which I don't know that there's any such thing, but even if you think that there is, it instantly makes your ideas smaller. So I think the lack of budget is the other reason why they just dominated.
Can you talk about what the budget was for Xbox and Burger King?
Yeah, that was a pretty big budget. Yeah. Well, in a way it was big. In a way it was small. You know, there's no. I think that to make the games and market and everything, I think it was about a $5 million effort, which for Burger King not that big. And we had to sell 5 million games or something, and we had to sell more games than there were consoles out there. So I thought that was kind of a wrinkle when they said that you need to do that, but it worked out.
That's why there's other lines in the show, is to show that invention. There isn't money, and the value added is the creation of something that without money can still be important.
Yeah, I mean Nike Plus, obviously Nike's got big budgets and stuff, but I think that they didn't go into it, and neither did the BK team go into it thinking about a budget or a media. They just went into it thinking, how do we talk to people in a new way? How do we get a message out there that sustains itself?
Boards inside of racing games or products that really lent themselves to being a game. Cars, particularly, we've seen car products come out in the past with games linked to them. Lots of online games, smaller games, mobile gaming. This was sort of a brave thing in that it created the whole environment. It was beautifully crafted, which I don't think we've really been doing as we start to just use media to be the digital space.
Yeah, the innovative creative product idea into an innovative type of communication execution. And then the integration and how the different media were playing with each other. It was not just exporting from one media to the other, but it was making them play with each other. I thought it was fantastic, the way that outdoor played with internet and internet played with the TV communication. I think it was great. For me, that's the true integration. Make media interact and give something bigger, not just execute and repeat what was on TV, repeat it on print, and then repeat it on radio. So that I wish we would have done that, honestly, because it was a fantastic campaign. Yes.
So that's part of it. The other part of it is we had a short list of 25, maybe, but we loved all of them, and we went through every one that numerically was in there, and we said, how do we feel about this? How do we feel about that? I mean, it's all really good work. As you're going through it, you think, you worry. You're like, is there any good stuff here? And I'm not sure. And halfway through the process, we're all sweating a little bit. But then you get to the end and you look through it, and there's not a single one I'm not jealous of, just on the short list. So it wasn't hard to say, yeah, and amongst those, here's the best. And you know what? Titanium isn't an award; it's a category. And it's a great category, and for us it became the most exciting category, I think.
I think, building on that, I think titanium is more than a category, because I think titanium is the future. It's the seed of the future. And if you look at the world, there's inspiration behind every single piece of work. Thinking behind every piece of work that's different, that's fresh, that's innovative, that's weaving its way into life in an interesting way, whether it be through gaming or it would be upstream with product creation, or the evolution of a campaign, a straightforward campaign. You think of the Lynx effect, that was a beer campaign. Spray this on, it's cause and effect. And it was a straightforward beer campaign that evolved and got stronger and stronger and stronger. And now it's so strong and so woven into the fabric of life that they can actually create products. I mean, that's when you have an idea that keeps getting stronger and richer as they go on. And all of these ideas behind them, I can imagine all of these ideas going on and on and on and on and on and on. And that's what we're charged with doing. It's not about one-off ideas that work in a certain way and are creative and fantastic examples of best-in-class practice as opposed to a print ad, whatever it may be. We're in the ideas industry. It's about the quality of the idea, the strength of the idea. And for me, the industry, I think all of these categories in X number of years' time will all go away, because it's crazy that we have categories. And ultimately, we're looking for an idea that has multiple expressions, multiple stories behind it, but powerful insight. And every single piece that we had, there was a real concept behind it. It came out of the truth of the brand or the concept of the product. And then it just celebrated that and did it in such an intelligent way.
The psychology of a jury is to try to hate everything and try to kill as much as you can, even though you're amongst a lot of great work. And so what's interesting is it took us about 48 hours after being hard on everything, to finally start to live with the gems, and then and really through kind of a shakedown of everything that we had talked about to get to the last remaining pieces that we felt were very important. And then you get comfortable with it, and I think we could all walk away from this jury feeling very comfortable with the decisions. And I know that this has been a kind of controversial, if not complicated, category, and we wanted to lend some clarity to it, and we hope we're doing that today. But it was, again, the show's instructions, as well as Alex's desire to make sure that people saw more than just one thing out of here, because when we did boil it down, there was a lot of really great things. If we had a silver and bronze within titanium, there might be more.
They should be learning from the winners list, and I'm sure the form or the way that the brief will be given to the agency or product design companies will be very different from now on. So that's my question. And also, like in your hairstyle, why did you decide to get one?
I should put my hat back on.
That's okay.
It's all right. It's all right. I've forgotten the other question now. With advertisers, I think. Well, I hope what advertisers are learning is the value of their agency's thinking again. To Navi's point, we lost our seat at the table for a while, and I think we didn't lose it. You know what? We gave it up. Basically, it was the kind of thing where there were some gravy days where if you made TV ads and print, you made a lot of money and you didn't have to worry about the rest of it. So, we spun off our media and we, gave up our seat in the strategic areas, and now we're scratching back. And so the hopefully what clients see is, it's worth bringing them back. There are a lot of smart people in agencies, and look what happens if you bring them into the process early again.
But I think the other thing as well is if you look at the best work, I think advertisers have to be more patient. I mean, one of the things that I think struck all of us, because like I said, the way the films are put together, these are really deep stories. They're not just like quick bumper sticker ideas, And I think in advertising we've got used to, on our side, on the agency side, on the advertiser side, like often just quick tactical solutions. We can sort of do this and make something happen, and it's got to be on air in a month, or the ad's got to be in the paper. And I think what's really interesting for us, and we've all done lots of those ads, but what's interesting for us about the stuff that won is they're big stories, And I know when I go back to Australia and people say, talk to me about this idea or that idea, it's a story. It's not a headline, or it's not like, I thought that was a great picture, or I loved what the director did. They're really big stories. So I think a big learning for advertisers is if you want this quality of work, you're going to have to be a bit more patient.
And braver.
And braver.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for the creative shaping the media as well. I mean, so many of these things were objects, even when they were campaigns, that you really have to work hand in hand that way, as opposed to just buying things. We find that in interactive, but when you look at the game, TEP Project, Barrio Bonita, Tate Tracks, it was all this beautiful synthesis of where should this idea be felt and live, and what does it need to be, and then the media beautifully supported that. And I think that that's a really pleasant change to be seeing.
But that's the most important
like
thing.
that for a while.
I think the ideas have to find the channels.
Yeah.
And I think where we're making a mistake is that we're creating the channels and thinking that's the way to do it, just replicating yourself and cloning yourself across an array of media channels, when it's where does that idea best express itself, where does that idea really create the value, and where does that idea enrich people's lives. And the best thinking does that. And if you go right back to the beginning of this as a concept, when Dan laid the track for the future, BMW Films was there for a reason. It wasn't, hey, let's do some kooky stuff. It was there because that's where the people lived. They lived online. They didn't watch TV, so we went there, and then they created, and they got Balance created the piece. But the most important thing for me is that we really identify these ideas and liberate them in new ways. And I think most of the stuff we saw is a bit like Custer. Custer surrounded by the Indians, each way you turn you get shot up the arse by an arrow. And that's like bad advertising. It's I don't want to see the same message every which way I turn, intruding in my life and assuming I'm interested. People are not interested in communication. It's our duty to reward people. We don't have a divine right to their attention, and I think a lot of advertisers believe that we do. And the smart advertisers, the smart agencies create the value and create the thinking and the ideas that really do take it to the next level. And also as well, if you look at this work, this is, as the thing grows from the seed and gets bigger and bigger and stronger, there are going to be more examples of this, but there's not going to be a formula, there's not going to be a style, there's not going to be a category. Even call it a category is wrong. It can't be a category. It has to be completely 360 in every which way.
One of the things you could have done is you could have done an inverse awards list too, which would have been very instructional because there was so much of the same sort of thing done over and over and one of them was bands. Let's make a band. Or the insight. Young people love music, so we knew we need. And it's funny because the tape tracks actually began with that, and we'd already seen it like 1,000 times. You're like, ugh. But then what they did with it was really unique, and what everyone else did, it came through the product. They integrated it with their product, and suddenly it wasn't just an add-on. It was real and kind of wonderful. So. We should probably make a list of things not to do when in this category.
The
results were staggering.
The results were staggering. We know the results were staggering. Question. That started to actually grate on people. Is PR important? Is it real? And do you want to show it? Yeah, but that you could feel the reality of it, and you didn't need to dwell on it a lot.
But this campaign is a PR campaign.
It's a PR campaign. It's a combination of things. Almost everything. And who deserves credit? Does the agency deserve credit, or does the newspaper deserve credit? Does Nike get the credit, or should Apple get the credit? Or should RGA get the credit? Should Xbox get the credit, or should Burger King get the credit, or should CPB get the credit? I think because we're at an advertising festival, we'd like to credit ourselves. But it's not really what's happening. I think this category is really interesting in that that the partnerships are a huge part of this category, and that the clients are huge winners in this category because this is not advertising stuff. This is generally real stuff, and I don't know. Maybe there's a different way to enter it, but right now you enter it, and it's the agency did this, the agency did that. That's really not what we're saying. Maybe it was the newspaper. It doesn't matter. What we're rewarding is the work. Maybe it was Burger King that
funny
deserves
that,
it.
to your point, really, because
I was just interested in whether it was really, it was a trade or was important.
I think it's important for it to be an integrated line. And the idea in that particular...
But obviously that side of the equation is much more prevalent now. Because I think, there's two things. When we're talking about depth of story, it's coming up with a solution that's got a lot of layers to it. And in the case of things like Earth Hour, took a huge amount of organisation. But in terms of, I think some of the stuff you're talking about is regardless of that, you've still got to get communications that grab people. And I think, just generally speaking, people's attention spans are shorter. But that doesn't mean that we have to create very fast projects. I think they're two different things.
I also think there's room for all kinds of things. I for one, really don't want to be part of that, rapid release disposable culture in terms of everything being something that changes with the women is passed along and, this is what it is. I think that there's room for that. I think that there's also a value in having, a craft. I think there's a value in messaging and communications. I think that you can't go all in one direction or another. There's also room for hyper-collaborative environments where consumers are sort of lifting and going along a brand. But if you look at the ones that do that, and I'm not talking cat on acid on YouTube, because I don't really think that in 5 years anyone is going to care about that. It's brands that had stories and people attach themselves to them and continue that on. Those are the interactions that we need that have value. If you're talking, direct marketing or CRM or PR aspects, I don't think we should reduce the whole industry to just saying fast, furious, they're responsive. Absolutely, we have to listen to consumers. We also have to speak to them. And I think that it's false to go all one direction or the other. And I found on this jury, I never really felt that divide, because I didn't feel that, you know, some people were particularly digital and some people weren't. We took all the work in and looked at it as a body of work. I think a lot more of that would be very helpful.
I don't think this show or this category treats all of its consumers as its target as much as it's seeking an audience, and an audience that will appreciate it. We've been talking about people here and their appreciation for these ideas, and I think there's a unique shift, because each and every one of these ideas has an appreciative factor to it that audience can find, and it really is significantly different than just that direct sell or the utilizing other media. These ideas create true appreciation, and that's what we're looking for.
Había muchísimas entries, muchísimos casos que partían de la creación de una banda o de una canción, etcétera.
Entiendo, que se repetían, ¿no?
Que se repetían. Entonces la parte de innovación, que es lo que estamos premiando aquí, pues no se ponía tan de manifiesto.
Ana María,
Bueno.
Así, agarradito.
¿La foto dices o para yo estaba haciendo para entrevista o lo hacemos fuera?
Bueno, yo le voy preguntando a ella.
Venga, vale. Sigue, perdona.
Sí, no, lo que te decía, que hubo muchos casos, muchas entradas, muchos entries que partían de una banda, de creación de una banda, creación de una canción, y que toda la campaña daba vueltas alrededor.
Que no era tan original, ¿no? Que quieres decir con eso que lo que estábamos en España era muy original, no lo era tanto, ¿no? Aquí.
Y además con la mala pata de que hubo muchas que eran pésimas y que vinieron antes de las
de ese estilo, con lo cual se quedó ya el estilo entero arrinconado. Y tú lo intentaste, pero no pudiste.
Pero intenté, sí, que en España ha sido muy diferente, pero bueno, pero esto no es realmente innovación, porque se ha hecho mucho como estamos viendo aquí, ¿no?
¿Cómo te has sentido dentro del jurado? Hemos visto que había 6 miembros de Estados Unidos, hay Australia, estaba Reino Unido, estás tú de España, realmente, y un argentino.
Bueno, pues sentíamos que sí, que la opinión o el criterio, la forma de entender la vida anglosajona, pues predominaba sobre la forma de entender la vida latina o del sur, ¿no? Pero bueno, no ha habido grandes tensiones.
¿No? ¿No ha habido discusiones fuertes o llega a las manos? No
en ese aspecto en absoluto.
Miguel García Vizcaíno nos decía hace poco que en el jurado que le ha tocado de televisión no ha aprendido nada y se ha sentido muy decepcionado, incluso frustrado, ha dicho. No sé si te sientes más o menos igual.
Yo no sería así de exagerada. Lo que sí me sorprendió es que yo pensaba, y lo ha dicho un poco Chuck Tucker también, que el nivel de los casos sería altísimo y que caso tras caso nos quedaríamos apabullados, ¿no? de la originalidad o de la innovación o de la integración. Y ha habido muchísimos casos que quedaban muy lejos de enseñarte algo o de aprender algo o de apabullarte en alguna manera. Sí es cierto que al final, pues los casos que hicieron nuestra pre-shortlist sí tenían muchísimas cualidades y todos ellos eran dignos de aprender, de admiración y de valorarlos, ¿no? y de un premio, si quieres.
Pero en cualquier caso podrías aprender de las piezas y hasta de los jurados, de la forma de analizar, de plantear.
Sí, de los jurados.
Más limpio.
Bueno, pues me gustó estar con unos de los creativos más importantes del mundo, ¿no? Como había en este jurado, ver qué visión dan ellos a las piezas y ver cómo enfocan, que es distinto al enfoque del que yo estoy más acostumbrada, que es un enfoque más del punto de vista de medios y más del punto de vista latino, ¿no? Ha sido una experiencia, la verdad, muy buena en ese aspecto.
Y preguntando.
Las dos piezas que eran candidatas, que han dicho que eran candidatas a los dos grandes premios, la de Nike Plus, que era la Titanio, y la de Tate Modern, a innovación, ¿tuvieron algo? O sea, estuvieron cerca de...
A ver, yo creo que en el caso de Nike, en el caso del Titanio está bastante reñido entre Nike Plus, TAP. Yo creo que si hubiéramos podido votar TAP, hubiera ganado TAP, pero no se podía porque era public. Yo creo que esa era la que hubiera ganado si hubiéramos podido votarla. Luego entre Nike Plus y Burger King sí hubo bastante discusión, mucha discusión. Yo creo que es la discusión más larga que tuvimos.
Y en el caso de integración.
En el caso de integración yo creo que Axe 3 se posicionó rápidamente como la favorita. Hubo alguna discusión de Tate porque era una cosa pues como más elegante, si quieres, como más bonita, pero yo creo que Axe no tuvo grandes problemas.
O sea que Ama Laura no tuvo ninguna oportunidad entonces.
Ama Laura nos estaba comentando antes que, como ha comentado algún miembro del jurado también, hubo muchos casos, muchos entes que partían de la creación de una banda, la creación de una música, y algunos eran horrorosamente malos. Entonces cuando llegó Laura la categoría estaba un poco desprestigiada, ¿no? Ya no.
Lo que
ya
pasa
no
es
tuvo
que aquí han dicho, Marc ha dicho, el titanium es el futuro, ¿no? Este tipo es el futuro de la publicidad, y España en el futuro de la publicidad al menos este año no está.
No solo
¿Cómo lo
España,
ves tú? Bueno, Europa entera, menos Inglaterra.
Está muy mal representada.
¿Qué significa eso?
Y eso la verdad me preocupa de alguna manera, ¿no? Aquí se habla un poco de asumir riesgos, de necesidad. Yo creo que en Europa estamos un poco cómodos últimamente y eso se nota en muchas cosas, ¿no? Se notan muchas cosas y esto es una evidencia más de lo cómodos estamos en Europa y la poca necesidad que tenemos de asumir riesgos. Tomemos nota, tomemos buena nota.
Es evidente que en las categorías que más les importan están tremendamente presentes, ostensiblemente de una forma abusiva, los jurados anglosajones, que en este desde luego. En fin, se juegan muchos cuartos en este tema y está lleno también de anglosajones. En el resto de categorías que ellos consideran menores hay mucha menos gente de países anglosajones y mucho más de estos sitios que así de profundos. ¿No da esa sensación?
Sí, bueno, eso no es sensación o no, los números están ahí, no hay más que hacer las matemáticas, ¿no? Esto no es opinionable, es un hecho y además un hecho que asume con toda tranquilidad, Terry, como ha dicho, ¿no? En el fondo.
¿Tú crees que Al Gore tiene que ver con Al Gore? No, digo porque Al Gore hay alguna campaña que es del calentamiento que se ha llevado el premio, ¿no? Y como ayer fue la gran charla de Al Gore, que hubo un lleno total, no sé, pregunto si tiene un poquito
Yo creo que Al Gore tiene que ver con el movimiento general, no con el premio aquí, porque por ejemplo de los jurados creo que ninguno fue a la charla de Al Gore, ¿no? Pero sí,
bueno, es curioso.
Toda la campaña que ha hecho Al Gore nos ha sensibilizado.
Pero es verdad que en España esas campañas todavía no están llegando con fuerza, ¿no? Es decir, este tipo de campañas no sé por qué la industria no las apoya, porque Al Gore ya dijo claramente, por favor, industria, apoyarnos, ¿no? Y aquí tenemos una exposición aquí fuera a la que hemos preguntado y decimos, ¿por qué no la lleváis a España? Y dicen, porque no encuentran el sponsor que ponga los 25.000 euros encima de la mesa, que no sé si es mucho o poco, $25.000, perdón. Es decir, ¿cómo puede ser que España esté ahí viviendo a la espalda de una tendencia importantísima, ¿no? Que es conectar con el consumidor a través del...
Eso siempre hemos estado un poco...
Sabéis si vosotros en MPG sois a lo mejor los líderes o los pioneros.
Hacemos bastantes cosas, sí, pero
por eso.
podría hacer muchos más en general, sí. Y nos cuesta con los anunciantes también.
Convencerles de coger el chip
no se ve el chip este bueno, que es una causa social y que además puede tener un retorno comercial también.
Encima, acercarte al consumidor, no lo tenemos todavía.
España es el único país que escribe más piezas en las categorías que más bajan. Es decir, escribimos en gráfica y en televisión. Todos los demás países han crecido en internet, en radio. Nosotros hemos ido bajando en radio, en internet.
No la había visto.
Es al revés, ¿no?
España invierte mucho más en lo que más baja. Y invierte mucho, ha bajado a la mitad en internet, en radio, en acciones especiales.
Bueno, una de las cosas para este festival es para hacernos pensar un poco, ¿no? Y si a través de los medios podéis llegar a cabo este tipo de análisis y de conclusiones y de puesta en común, es lo que nos hace pensar a nosotros, ¿no? Porque a lo mejor no estamos nosotros haciendo tanto la estadística como la podéis hacer vosotros y cada uno tiene una visión bastante parcializada del tema según su espacio propio de interés, ¿no? Pero por los medios sí que podéis hacer este tipo de conclusiones y ayudarnos a nosotros a crear un debate, ¿no? En España.
Para el taller del año que viene, si Dios quiere, en este caso que esperamos contar contigo, sacamos varias conclusiones. Una de ellas es la actitud que tengas en el jurado, que siempre lo hemos comentado como que es muy positiva, muy proactiva. En tu caso ha funcionado, quizás en el de Miguel no haya funcionado tanto. Y la otra es que también la forma de presentar las campañas puede dar lugar, por orden alfabético, como ya pasábamos a Laura, que esto le perjudique. En cualquier caso, habrá técnicas para que cuando eso pase en categorías que han caído en desgracia, como el de Ama Laura, haya alguna solución. Y eso, si está preparado el jurado para verlo, decir, bueno, esto ya pasa otros años. Se han perjudicado buenas campañas, como la de
categorías,
Luz y otra tal.
Exacto,
no podemos permitirlo.
Eso puede ser un aprendizaje bueno para el año que viene. De todas formas, te diré que hubo muchísima unanimidad, ¿no? Porque el método que seguimos, bueno, no unanimidad, pero bastante acuerdo de entrada, porque el método que seguimos primero votar todos los casos y rankearlos todos por el número de votos. Y nadie, o sea, todos estaban entre nuestros favoritos, estaban los 15 primeros, estaban entre los favoritos de todos. O sea, nadie intentó repescar un caso que había quedado mucho más atrás del número 15 ni nada de eso.
Era muy evidente.
Era muy evidente, o sea, y la discusión estaba ahí, y los casos en los que todos estaban enfocados eran eso, o sea que era bastante evidente, ¿no?
Bueno.
un poco fuera de forma, ¿no? Por decirlo de alguna manera. Entonces tomemos nota todos en España y fuera de España. Y vemos que cuando los países se mueven, como es el caso de Argentina en particular, pues las cosas se notan, ¿no? Se mueve en cuanto al número de personas que ha venido a Cannes, se mueve en cuanto al número de casos que han presentado y luego también se refleja en el número de premios. En España no nos ha ido mal este año, no nos podemos quejar con esta categoría, en otras categorías yo creo que no nos podemos quejar de cómo nos ha ido, pero Europa en general, que esté tan poco representada en el titanio, pues no es una noticia como para hacernos sentir muy orgullosos de nosotros mismos.
Y la tendencia de la responsabilidad social corporativa con Barrio Bonito, el de Nike y todo eso,
ha sido mejor porcentaje en titanio para Argentina que ha sido en televisión.
Sí, no, el porcentaje de Argentina ha sido muy bueno y no hubo ningún sentimiento de anti-latino, anti-español o de no, al contrario, respetaron muchísimo los...
El nivel general de España, 3 bronces ahora mismo, que habíamos creo que entregado 30, y el nivel general, ¿cómo lo estás viendo este año?
Hombre, yo creo que nos hemos llevado un Gran Prix, nos hemos llevado España, es parte de Europa, ¿no? Y al final yo creo que en algunas cosas estamos también acomodándonos un poco y hay ciclos, ¿no? Tuvimos un ciclo buenísimo de alza, yo creo que no hemos bajado, que nos hemos quedado ahí y que estamos bastante bien. Y hay que coger impulso y volver a subir, y si el ambiente que nos rodea, el resto de Europa, no nos acompaña, espero que nos fijemos en nuestros amigos de Latinoamérica para motivarnos y seguir dando para arriba.
¿Argentina tiene ya marca, crees? ¿Era fácil cuando ellos presentaban sus piezas?
Yo creo que Argentina un poco de marca tiene, sí, yo creo que sí tiene marca, yo creo que sí. Aparte si las piezas eran buenas, pero es que no se puede negar, o sea, la de Axa me parece excelente, o sea, es el haber diseñado un producto tan absurdo, si quieres, como que te tengas que poner 2 desodorantes, no uno, para gastar más producto. Y luego una vez has tenido esa idea que fue de la agencia, bueno, ¿y ahora cómo lo vendo esto? Porque claro, tener la idea es divertido, pero venderla es increíble. Pues encontrar una solución tan axe como que es la fusión de 2 mujeres, y si te pones 2 desodorantes vas a atraer en la fusión de 2 mujeres, es una idea absurda y divertida, y encima saber ejecutarlo tan redondamente y tan bien y con tanto humor, sin caer en el chabacanismo, sin caer en la ordinariez, y mantener un nivel divertido, yo creo que es increíble, vamos.
En España sería imposible de emitir como siempre, ¿no? Los feministas lo tirarían.
Probablemente, pero yo no soy feminista, así que no lo sé, pero probablemente. Pero a mí me parece una idea bomba y una ejecución magnífica.
Se eu tivesse que dar ano que vem, mais reclame e muito som, tá dando. Beijo.
A bit about the momentum your agency is the good momentum you I believe from what I read.